Hey there. All right. Hey there. This is R A Manard, Mitrava for Monks of the Way. And today is the weekly True Talk. And the thing that I'm going to discuss today is society from the Buddhist perspective. And I'm going to take a run at it, but I'm not sure how exacting I can be or how informative I can be in a very short time. We'll see what we can do. So, to start with, I guess we're going to have to start further back. So, as society has developed, it's gone from, a tribal leader who was basically like a god king, warrior king kind of thing. And they split up things as time went on, more duties to more people, spreading power around, but they still had a king or queen or whatever, uh, a leader of some sort that had all the power to pretty much do everything, usually. And this was split between the king and the church sometimes, but I digress at that point. What I'm saying is that we have a society that came from somewhere, and that somewhere is from tribal concerns. And so there's always been divisions of people. And then there were hunters and there were gatherers in the tribe, of course, men and women, the sexist divide. And we're breaking down divides as we go forward. And from the Buddhist perspective, this is awesome. It's great. We have a long way to go, certainly. In the most developed nations of the world, still, women don't make as much as men do for the same jobs. They don't. They don't get promoted the way the men get promoted. They don't get responsibilities the way the men do. But it's getting closer to equality for people, and that's a good thing. Things are moving in a direction. On the side of having things yet to go, there's the way society is structured, and you have the royal and you have the servile, which you would think we got away from class structures, but we really haven't. We've just disguised them a little bit better these days, and people don't talk about it as much. But in some countries, they have the classes and the family lineages where they're pretty outright. People know that it's there. They don't really know how powerful it is. And a place like the United States, people don't really know the most of the family names and lineages at all. But it's there, and I don't want you to think that I'm anti-royal, because I'm not. I mean, we need to think about this clearly. The average person has no understanding about how to govern, really. No understanding about how society works, how the machinery of government works. And the royals are raised to know this stuff and how to deal with it and how to get ahead in such an atmosphere, such a climate. And so they're more equipped, not necessarily because they're smarter or they're better at any way, but that's their place. And they have the opportunity to be well trained and groomed for these things. And the other ones don't really have that opportunity. Should they have that opportunity? Well, there should be mobility, certainly. And I think that's the problem that Buddha had with the class structures, was that there was no mobility. You were born to a family, and it was of a caste, a certain level, and they did a certain thing, and that's what they were known for, and that's what you did. And of course, Buddha was not into that, obviously, becoming a monk from a royal family. So, yeah. But we have these royals, and I think it's important to pass along some of the information that I have. I do have royal bloodlines in my family, and so I know some of the royal stories, that they tell their children, lessons that they teach them as they grow up. One interesting one would be the gardener, basically an analogy or metaphor. And it goes like this, that you are a gardener, and the gardener knows what to plant and when to plant it, and keeps bees. And the bees fertilize the flowers according to what the gardener has grown for them, and they make the honey. And the farmer uh, takes some of the honey, and the bees don't really understand what the gardener does, or that he plants, or what he plants, or any of that. And the bee doesn't really care for the flower, it wants the nectar to make the honey. So the warning is that the bee will try to kill the gardener as he takes the honey. He doesn't understand that that's the purpose of the bee, is to make the honey. Now, of course, the bee is the worker, the serval class, and the gardener would be the royal class. And the planting that they do is the business that they do, and the governing that they do. So, as you can see, the way they think about each other is very different. The way different classes think about each other, and I think we need to grow toward a central understanding that includes everybody. And do I have a new story for that? No, I don't. But I don't think we need a story. Maybe we do. So it's important to understand that there are still classes. From the Buddhist perspective, there can be classes, but there needs to be mobility. A person being able to be exposed to the privilege of being whatever they can be best at, or want to be best at, and are qualified to do, because they become qualified. They have to have the upward mobility to get to different places. Like a person that is born to, let's say, a poor family in a government paid rent place can certainly be president, or could be a leader of industry of some sort, could be a technological genius, could be anything. But the way things are, they don't have that opportunity, and they get stunted, and we waste so much of what people could be because of this. We would be so far if we had more mobility. And I myself actually face this, because certainly if I was a royal myself, and not just of the bloodlines, people would listen to me, because that's a royal. Why wouldn't you listen to them, right? They still think that way today a lot, that if a person is rich or powerful, that they somehow are smarter or better. And they think if a person is poor, that they're somehow not as smart, um, not trustworthy, all kinds of things. It's kind of a letdown. But we're moving in a direction, like I said, and let's talk about the direction from the Buddhist perspective. It used to be that times were very hard and life was pretty cheap, but that's not the case today. It's very hard to find a place in the world today where it's like it was, where you could get killed for almost anything at any time. Not that these places don't exist, but that they're very few, far between. Really hard to find such a place. We have more people have come together, much more, and the needs of the people are being met more than they have been before. And I say that, and some people will disagree, but declinism is not real. It's just a figment of imagination, a constructive thought. People have more food, more shelter, more protection, more dignity than they have ever had on a global scale before, as a world, as a planet. And does this mean that there are not people that are going hungry or don't have shelter? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, there's only been a few places in the United States, but they figured out, finally, they figured out, I say, as if nobody knew, but they already did. But it's come to light that if you just give a homeless person some place to live, the necessities of life, that they want to be a productive member of society. Most of them. And it costs so much less to just give somebody a place to live than it does to deny them a place to live because they don't have a job, which, by the way, you'd have to have a regular phone number and address to get a job. And they oftentimes want experience that you can't get when you're homeless too. So, a lot of things can change as far as um, mobility. There's been a rise in mobility in places like the United States because it's capitalist, and of course that's the way the world seems to be going. And so there's not just movers and shakers of certain family lineages, but people that get into that because they get rich or they get famous or both. You might understand that old money, meaning people that come from wealth, like I said, have had the grooming and whatnot to know how to handle that money. But new money, people that like someone breaks out as a music star or something, or a comedian, or gets known for the news that they do on the internet or whatever. They get money, they get fame. But what are they going to do with it? Well, they certainly haven't been groomed all their life to know how to use money, how to leverage things, how to get things done in the world. And so, by and large, they can't do any of that. And that's too bad. We should have the mobility to be able to have people be born of whatever class and move to whatever class. And we want to bring the classes closer together. Because, yes, I understand a person's from, a family that has wealth and they are going to go to a different school. But as far as the education that they get, whether you're in a mansion or whether you're in a regular apartment, you should be able to get a good education, and you should be able to explore your strengths, the aptitudes that you have. And you should be exposed to all kinds of different things so you can find out what you're really gifted at and be able to pursue those things that make you happy, that make the world a better place. From the Buddhist perspective, of course, caring in a capitalist society is something that gets lost a little bit. Actually, was stronger in the past than it is today. The empathy, for instance, in the United States, we have constant war going on all over the world. We know that we have these machines flying around killing people, and that most of the people that they kill are not the target, not even identified people, just whoever happens to be there. And there was a little tiny thing about it in the news. A couple of weeks later, nobody talked about it, and it's been virtually undiscussed since then. People don't care. They have concerns. And I realize that we're into 14 minutes of the video now, but I really want to mention that the programming of society is what keeps a lot of this perpetually going. And we have media telling us what should make us happy, what should make us sad, what should make us angry, continuously. And we need to break this programming and think for ourselves. Buddha wanted us to think for ourselves, wanted us to be a skeptic, wanted us to to reevaluate everything on a constant, ongoing basis. And this would help dramatically if people would use this mindfulness, use this way of approaching things that's fact-based discernment. And fact-based discernment is not really held up as the way to do things, and that's it today. We have a lot of people that are not doing that. They're having trouble getting together the things that can make them successful in life because they're not taught that way. We have schools and they teach a lot of facts, but as far as individuals being able to be productive in and of themselves, it's sorely lacking. And the programming doesn't help, because the programming of modern society is that you need to buy things to make yourself happy, new things. You need to buy things to make other people happy, to have good relationships, to be loved, to be a friend. And all this is not true. I mean, sure, friends have things they want to share them with you, obviously, things that are good. But the consumerism, the obsoletism, the buying of things newer, instead of using things that work great already, the planned obsolescence of things that they make these days, making things in a way that they will break down purposefully, knowledgefully, expertly even. It's been going on a very long time. There was an invention of white metal, I would say, when was that? Yeah, before my grandparents were born a little bit. And they made inferior metal on purpose so that some of the parts of machinery would break down, and break down after a certain number of working hours on the average. So they had planned obsolescence of parts. And they said, well, and maybe it was that they wanted to make sure they knew which parts were going to break down. It was easier to fix, that kind of thing. But it spread. Why make a light bulb that can last hundreds of years when you can make a light bulb that's going to last, a year maybe, or 6 months, and they have to buy another one? Some of the original lightning bulbs that were made are burning today, a couple hundred years later. So yes, they could make light bulbs that work a lot better, and we could get into how bright are the light bulbs, how durable, and all that. But the fact is, they could do a lot better. They could make things that last, but that's not part of what they want to do in a capitalist society. And the royals used to take care of the serval because they were the workers that would make them the money. They had a responsibility to them. Some of those ties have been broken a little bit these days because they don't see necessarily their responsibility to a particular set of people. That kind of all people mix together and people go from job to job. But obviously, on the larger scale, they still do and still have to kick in some of their money, some of their time. They're pretty much still forced to. But beyond what they're forced to, it seems like they're really not doing that much. It is changing, though. It is moving a little bit forward. The needle moves a little bit. Things move forward. Takes a lot of time, takes a lot of patience. Any of these particular things that I've talked about today, I could expand on for a whole talk, but unless there's interest in them, I'm not really going to. The basis of this is that there's this compassion and kindness that's supposed to be in society that we need to bring back. If it works if you're doing things, you're helping people, you're helping yourself. if you're really helping yourself, you should be also helping others. They should go together like that. And every single person does make a difference and has an impact that goes out like a wave, and people affect other people that affect other people. So I don't want anybody to feel like they're powerless, because they're not. And the masses, the serval, have the power to change society and to change the world. So far, very few times in history have they ever done it, but they have done it, and they will do it again. I'd like for it to be peaceful. From the Buddhist perspective, it's necessary that we do things in compassion and in a kind way. We can make change that way. And there have been examples going forward here where they've changed the leaders in governments and the types of governments and not had to have bloodshed, which is astounding. We can keep doing these things. We can keep moving forward, but it's up to each person to live in a rightful way. And of course, the teachings of Buddha are great for this. We've had enough of strict adherence to religion dividing people, and we've had enough of skin color and all these different things dividing people. If we can just get to the basic teachings of truths, universal truths, everybody can test and prove for themselves, then people are going to know that compassion and kindness are the best possible thing they could do for themselves and for others. And they're going to start living that way. It's up to each of you to do your part. Now, I wanted to also quote some sutta, but it's 22 minutes in, and I need to keep things a little shorter so it doesn't seem like so much when a person looks through the videos to see what they might be interested in. I will be touching on these subjects in other videos because these subjects overlap. And hopefully I'll be able to give a little more in-depth information and, certainly quote some sutta on different perspectives of these things. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and cut this a little short there. Not go on for a full half hour like I'd like to at least. I hope that the truth will remove delusion in your life the way light removes darkness. And I want to thank you for having a listen. There are a whole bunch of other videos on a range of topics. You can see what you want on the YouTube there. And I hope that you will have a listen to some other videos there too. And if you'd like to support the videos, the work of monks doing the work in society, you can donate as well. All right. Thanks for having a listen.